Left-Wing Kingz. Listen, think, act, repeat.
Gun violence is a critical topic that affects communities across the United States. It's a complex crisis that's unique to America. We're leading the charge. At least we're leading in that. We're leading in something. We've had over 48,000 lives lost to firearms in 2022 alone. The Center for Gun Violence Solutions at Johns Hopkins has set a goal to reduce gun violence to 30% by 2030. But how can it get there? So today we're going to go ahead and help out Johns Hopkins by exploring 5 of our key strategies to reduce gun violence. Number 1, firearm purchaser licensing. This involves a permit to purchase system that includes enhanced background checks, training, safety, and a waiting period to get your gun. Wanda, what kind of impact will this have on gun violence?
A great one. And it's already been in some states. So first of all, you're going to have obviously a reduction in homicide or firearm homicide. So in Connecticut, there's a permit. They have a law, and it went in effect in 1995. For them, it includes also the background checks, the permit, the safety training, and that. It's a 40% reduction in firearm homicides. So you're almost at 50%, so 40%. Then what happened was Missouri got on board, but then they repealed in 2007, and immediately they saw a reduction, and it's already been reduced by 25% and counting after they repealed. So it just shows that, the law is working, right? You got a 40%, that's pretty high. Also, there's a reduction in suicide rates, right? States with stringent permit and just laws in general have a substantial amount of decreased suicides that happen in the state dealing with children, adolescents. So keep in mind, we love the kids, right? So let's do something for them. So in their overall reduction in violent crime, so that's the Journal of Urban Health says, if you do this and put this in place with a comprehensive background check, it decreases by approximately 11% and growing. So you have fewer just violent crimes in general. So, and then again, the last one be illegal arm trafficking. Yes, we know there's illegal arm trafficking, but there's a reduction in that. And it looked like that was about 20% that's happening if you put all these laws in place and enforce them. Because you have a law, but if you don't enforce it, then what does that mean to you?
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, the NRA can't like none of that because they're the devil's playground, and the devil owns Walmart. So on top of that, but the NRA, they're definitely in the NRA. Just makes sense to me, man. Less access to guns, harder, stringent ways to get the guns is going to lower that. Just common sense, And for these idiots, and that's right about the NRA up. These idiots, the guy and say, hey, they get them illegally. Well, of course, criminals are gonna find ways to get guns. That's just you're not gonna stop them, But law-abiding people that you can get guns and you can reduce the senseless deaths that we're having and keep guns from getting into the hands of the wrong people. Most of the time, criminals break into law-abiding citizens' houses and get guns. But some of these people shouldn't have had guns in the first place.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They wouldn't get that. So just makes sense that would be a policy that would come into play to do that. But in Texas, down here in the Wild Wild West, they ain't gonna pass nothing like that. You know what I'm saying? Like you can get crack before easier than get a damn gun. It's it's just crazy, man. It's just like it's easy to get a gun.
Yeah.
You can go get a gun. And it was funny because somebody was telling me how to get a gun. I said, just go to the academy and fill out some paperwork and get a gun. I mean,
exactly.
And
Walmart.
The same question they were chasing Hunter Biden for. The simple question says, are you on drugs or whatever? Anybody can check anything on that. It ain't like, the dude behind the counter ain't going to stop you and be like, you look like you do dope. You know what I'm saying? They ain't going to do that. Just check it and keep it going. So those stringent gun laws, definitely would come into play and make things easier.
Yeah, the point that you made about criminals getting guns and stuff like that, that's important that we bring that up because 2 things. When we talk about a lot of the gun violence that's happening right now, it's by people who have registered their their vehicles. And it's who have registered their weapons and it's theirs. Even when you look at a lot of these mass shootings, these are people who legally have these weapons.
With the gun shows.
And they have them legally by the right, but there was not the protections that a firearm purchasing program would have. If you do these background checks on these people, you make them do the training, make them have a waiting period. Like you said, you just go to a gun show, pick up whatever kind of crazy gun you want, and you out. right? Because of because of the type of event that you're at when you purchase it. So at the end of the day, yeah, there's criminals who steal guns, but the majority of these violent crimes are happening by people who have registered weapons. And if they have a more stringent purchasing program, it would reduce that, just like Wanda said in those stats. But the point that you made, like about guns being stolen, brings us to solution number 2. And solution number 2 is safe and secure gun storage. So proper storage obviously limits your access to guns. So Ace, does safe and secure gun storage reduce gun violence? And if so, how would it do that?
Yeah, it does. And I'll go personally. I'm an avid gun owner. You know what I'm saying? So, but storage is important to me. I got nieces, nephews, minors, underage, that could mistake my gun as a toy. So I've purchased a nice little storage case and lock my guns up when I'm not there, just in case they wander around or they come over my house when I'm not there, and get in there. So it's going to reduce any accidents happening. Down here, as you know, I think last week, the SAPD actually had a gun storage giveaway where they're giving away gun storage.
That's good.
Things. So community, I don't think a lot of people knew it. I'm probably the only dude still looking at local news. You know what I'm saying? But anyway, so there's programs out there, and I want to say if you probably call them, they could probably talk to you about it. But they had a little event with that, so it's vitally important, I think, if you're a responsible gun owner, especially if you have children around, especially if you have teenagers around. Let's change, especially if you have 20-year-olds around. You know what I'm saying? Like even these boys have been adults, because like I'll take it back. I think that generationally, when it comes to guns, there's just a different attitude. Like, for instance, our generation had guns or whatever, but and even older. But I think that, especially if we were in the 90s, we seen, and the 90s was kind of rough. We seen what guns really do. But sometimes I think these kids that grew up with these video games and playing like these video games, they were shooting people and stuff like that, it's nullified to them a little bit. Like they'll grab a gun real quick and shoot people because they do that all day long on video games. So, it something's missing there compared to where, some of us in the 90s, not all of us, but some of us that were around people who died from gun violence or heard about it, or maybe were unfortunate to be in a drive-by shooting when that was just something that was famously going on back in the 90s. Just have a different take with it and understand the devastation of guns. You know what I'm saying? So I think it's important to lock up your guns and make sure that they're safe.
Yeah, just to piggyback on what you said, I think we're just numbified. I don't know if that's a word. To the mass shootings, because I didn't experience a mass shooting when I went to school. I don't think any of us in this room did, but our kids did, and multiple times, so it's been on TV constantly. Somebody died, now kids are scared to go to school, or now they're just used to it, all this fencing and things that we have done in order to make sure our kids are safe, our drills that we actually do, we talk about that. I just think that it's become such the norm that that's what's caused it to be problematic, which is sad, right?
Yeah, talk towards that a little bit, because like when we were in high school, it was like fire drills. That was the
we
only
only had
thing.
fire drills.
We went outside for a little bit and came back in. You know what I'm saying?
We haven't done active shooter drills just because that has opened up. Can you imagine somebody who's like someone who has autism, some type of disability, and that noise? Like they used to want us to go in. At first, they were talking about really shooting off guns inside of the school, so you would know what that sounds like. Again, I never heard a gun. I mean, I've heard a gun on TV, but I wouldn't know. I was like, what does that sound like exactly? I've heard it on TV, but I've never heard. So I did understand that, like, what does that sound like? How do you know it's an emergency versus a kid popping? Because now they pop these bottles and it sounds real loud and startles you. What is the difference in sounding? So just having those type of conversations. I've actually gone through training for active shooter. Like I've had trainings that I've gone to and read and had police come and speak to me. I mean, that's just different from what we're used to on there. But biggest thing on the storage, though, I'll just give you some statistics, because I know you were saying, like, as far as what does that actually mean and how does it help to society, but it's 78% lower risk of youth firearms suicide for you using storage. 78%. I mean, we talk about kids, people are really big on abortion, right? Which, again, I'm not going to get into my own personal stance behind that, but these kids are out here living in the world right now, right? And that would help 78% of them if you just stored your firearm on there from suicide. Academy of Pediatrics says too, risk of adolescent suicide. So these are just children. No, I'm saying adolescents. I'm saying 18, around that age as far as and teenagers. It decreases their suicide rate by 85% in homes, because we know as far as suicide is a thing when they get in middle and high school and these kids are killing themselves. So that would decrease by 85%. Reduction in theft. What I thought was very interesting is a lot of these firearms are stolen from people in their cars and their trucks and their homes. 380,000 guns have been stolen. So just imagine what that means. You know what I'm saying? People go around stealing guns, using your gun to go off and kill somebody. So 380,000 guns have been stolen from gun owners, whether it's in their homes, their cars, wherever. Also, the public health impact. So access to a firearm increases the risk of an intimate partner by 500 and 100%. 500%. So basically, if you have a partner who has a gun, not saying Adrian over here because he loves everyone, but
watch out, Liam.
That their partner is at risk.
I was debating if my gun was locked right now. I was like, did I lock my damn gun?
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Your mate. So just know if your mate has a gun, you're at the risk.
I might walk into some shit.
500% chance of you dying.
I'm lucky that there ain't no gun in this house. I'd be fucked up by now.
Then I lock up the gun. Do I had a key, nigga? Because I might have said some shit when I left.
Yep. You better go apologize before you get home. So, and that's a very large risk. And I hate to say that, but I've had students who've had that experience recently. So I was like, you don't think those things are going to happen, but I could tell you, yes, that does happen. And it's actually been very recent in my world. 27% fewer gun deaths per capita will secure firearm storage. And that's across every state, regardless of what type of laws that they have. So statistics show that storage definitely will save a life. So
that's awesome, man. You know what might save our lives? Clicking that like button. You know, that'll save my life to be a Captain Save 'em. So if you like this content, you want to check out more videos like this, make sure that you hit that like button and also subscribe to Left Wing Kingz and share this content across all of your social media platforms. So let's talk about the next gun solution. Gun solution number 3 is firearm removal laws. So extreme risk protection orders, or what they call red flag laws, allow law enforcement to remove firearms from individuals who are deemed to be a risk to themselves or others. Ace, are red flag laws necessary?
Yeah, I'm kind of on the fence with this one. This can go either way. I mean, my problem is what deems somebody a risk, and that's where it comes into play. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, it's some people that are definitely a risk, and yes, you need to get the gun away from them. You know what I'm saying? Definitely. But as we know in this country, sometimes that can be a big shade of gray on who's a risk or not. Are minorities now a risk? So we're gonna go take all the guns from them? Is somebody, for whatever reason that you don't want them to have a gun, or are they considered a risk? And are we gonna now use this law to go take guns away from them so we can have guns? I just know in history how this country's worked. When they wanted to persecute people, they started taking away little laws like this so we can have guns, but they don't. That's one side of it. But then the other side is we do have some people that don't need guns in their hands, and we do need some laws that are able to do that. We just have to be real good on how we determine who we can take guns away from.
Agree.
Definitely. Not talking about Texas, because we know Texas is gun toting. So a study shows in Indiana and Connecticut on the reduction in suicide rates dealing with red flag laws. In 2005, it had a 75% reduction in suicide rates in Indiana. And then Connecticut saw a 13.7 reduction with red flag laws, because they prevent one suicide in 10 to 20 orders, in every 10 to 20. So you can save a life. It's about 10% decrease.
I don't know if you know this or not, but was that tied to like Ace said, like there has to be specific requirements, right? Was it tied to like a mental health requirement? Is that why these people why there was a reduction in suicides? Maybe the red flag laws include something about mental health. I don't know if you know that or not.
I didn't get all the information on it, but it did have to do with a lot of the mental health and have you been a violent crime and just really specific parameters in that. But 75% reduction and whatever. So I would definitely look in the information on Indiana, because whatever Indiana is doing is definitely working on there. But they're pretty tight law. It's a pretty intense one. Again, I think Texas has the most loose, and I think Indiana is one of the most strictest on there. Also, prevention of mass shootings, because that's what we hear about across the states. And again, guess who has the most mass shootings, or at least on the top 3, is Texas as well. So, I mean, the effectiveness depends on the implementation, the legal safeguards and things of that nature. But it's something to think about. We always talk about we care about lives and our kids, but what are we doing in order to make those changes? And number one, kids die from guns. That's the number one killer for children, not cancer, not anything else. It's extra gun violence. So just something we got to start thinking about in Texas if we truly love our kids the way we say we do.
Yeah, we gotta do a better job. But that's my only thing on that. Those red flag laws is the skepticism of that. But I think they're necessary. I think they are. I think there's situations where somebody's probably in a mental health situation where they probably shouldn't be around a gun.
Right.
Definitely, if there's high drug usage in the home or something, more than likely you shouldn't have a gun in there. You know what I'm saying? So and I see the effects of it, but I'm always wary about how government twists that law, and the next thing you know, they're taking guns from people they shouldn't be taking guns from for crazy reasons. So
and I think I agree with you 100%, man. That there needs to be red flag laws, but we need to be really consistent about what those requirements are to put them in place and take a gun from someone. I'm gonna give Trump some love on this one. I hate to do it, but in New York, he can't have a gun now because he fucking falsified some documents. Is that really like a reason, like for a felon not to have? Maybe they look at like what type of felony, like if you have like, domestic violence or something like that, take that gun. But if this is a felony for paperwork or something like that, should we be taking that guy's gun? I don't know. Like I said, I'm not a Trump lover at all, but I'm just making a point in the same point that you're making is they need to be very specific about what type of requirements and, things like for public safety and things like that, because certain people shouldn't have them. And that kind of brings me to solution number 4, which is a community violence intervention. So community violence intervention involves programs that include things like conflict mediation, support services to address the root causes of gun violence and things of that nature. So, Wanda, should these services be voluntary, mandatory, or would they be a waste of taxpayer money?
I think in certain situations it should be mandatory where it's a public health safety. And I'll use that example because everybody always wants to talk about Chicago, but everybody I meet in Chicago is wonderful and nice. And my kid used to live out there and loved it. But they had it's called the core violence model, and that treated violence as a public health safety issue. So in Chicago, with them using all these parameters, they went from 41% to 73% reduction in shootings and killings. It's called they have different type of safety features, but they have Operation Peacemaker, and that's where the safety officers actually go into the community and they talk to the community, and like you said, trying to find the root cause of what is happening, who's killing who, and why are they killing them. Right. So that worked really well in Chicago. So if you ever hear about Chicago don't have killings like it used to, because they did a root cause analysis to figure out why it was happening, and they put things in place in order to reduce it. In Richmond, California, they saw a 55% reduction in gun homicides from 2010 to 2016. And it also improves community safety and trust. So basically, it gets the community and the safety officers working in a partnership. So they don't see your safety officers as someone just here, I'm here to just make sure that you're doing right and I'm going to take you to jail kind of thing, but actually being immersed in the community where they build some type of trust and community feel. So it's actually working out in a lot of areas that have high levels of shootings and community distrust.
They got a program right here. Again, my old ass up looking at local news. But they got a program right here. They're doing it at the Rigsby.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And they're in stage 2 of that right now, to where they've embedded a lot of policemen over there to try to build up community, and they're going in and eventually leads to them, like you said, a high school shooting area. I mean, I don't live by the Rigsby. I don't know what the situation is, but I'm just going by what the news says. But they're embedding policemen bigger police presence, kind of to build more community trust to remove guns. So they're actually doing that here in San Antonio.
Right. And they don't care. I mean, they still have to carry their guns, but they may wear a different type of uniform. And they do a lot of community events. So you don't see them on the end of just, laying somebody down on the ground and putting handcuffs on them. But they see them as, I'm your protector as well. And if you need help, I'm here to assist you, kind of thing. So just more of a community feel that they're trying to do instead of just, what you have seen in the past, unfortunately, about abuse of power, trying to diminish that.
Well, some people might call solution number 5 an abuse of power, but I don't. Solution number 5 is having public carry regulation. So restrictions on carrying firearms in public can reduce the likelihood of deadly encounters. Ace, does restricting public carry of firearms cause more harm than good, or will it significantly reduce gun violence?
This is one I deal every day. I go to work, right around up to the elevator, or come up the stairs, and there's a sign that says you can't carry firearms in here. And that's in Texas. You can't carry firearms in my job. And I think I probably won't carry my gun in here because this is the one place somebody might go crazy and bring their damn gun. So do I need to break the damn law to protect myself? Like, I actually have that go through my head and shit. You know what I'm saying? So I guess it's like protection, but my thing is if somebody wants to do a mass shooting, because I got this fear, I guess you can call it, that somebody's going to get fired or they're going to tell them they're going to leave and they just going to start shooting. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. Now I'm sitting here, I ain't got no gun, I ain't got nothing because of this damn sign up here. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm abiding to the law. But crazy dude that knew he was going to get 5-6 months ago and been waiting for this moment, he ain't paying attention to that goddamn sign. He's going to just bring his gun up here and go crazy. So, yeah, I think, for law-abiding citizens, it prevents that because you're going to say, well, I'm not going to break the law. I'm not going to bring a gun in this establishment, whatever. But once again, the people who don't care, they're going to pay attention to that sign, the bad apples. But I think most people aren't bad apples. They're not just walking around trying to shoot up people. Mass shooter ain't going to care about that sign. But, of course, the law-abiding people will. And then do you really want, except in Texas, because we think if everybody got guns, it's good. But do you really want everybody carrying a gun or having willy-nilly to carry a gun anywhere? Because then that leads into issues. That's people like ordering over the last package of water in Walmart and they're going to just start shooting each other for it. I mean, it's crazy stuff like that. So, yeah, it's got its place to where it prevents gun violence, so definitely. Yeah,
well, I looked it up and just trying to see like what, again, statistics would show on there. It wasn't a really statistical analysis, but obviously you're going to have a reduction in gun violence, right? Decreased firearm accidents. And then I was thinking about law enforcement, because then you can distinguish who's supposed to have a gun and who doesn't. I always think about the good guy and the bad, what they would say that you want a good guy to have the gun, right? Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, in the climate that we live in, I've always think of, well, if it's a black man, he's the good guy. But then law enforcement comes in and they don't know who the bad guy is. But for some reason, that a lot of black skin is perceived as being negative, and now you done killed the good guy who was trying to kill the bad guy. I just think of those stuff like that, and I think it would help law enforcement to understand who's supposed to be carrying and who's not, because nobody would have a gun but them, because they're the ones supposed to have it. And then I think about the social and economic impacts. I put public perception. If you have a stricter gun law, right, that you can't have something, typically you get this perception that you're safe. Like, I know you said you don't necessarily feel safe at work because you don't trust the people you work with. but in essence, if you see that sign, like when I walk into my school and I see a sign, you can't have guns. I mean, I do feel a sense of peace, but you're right. Like, the bad guy is the bad guy. And now with society and everything that's happened, I think we don't have that perception anymore because we've seen so many mass shootings in such various places, whether it be work, your movies, the mall. The damn movies. I always think we go to the movies a lot, the movies, schools. I mean, to me, there's nowhere that's safe. But I think still having those signs and having people minimized to where they can't have firearms does give me some type of sense of security, a little bit.
To me, it's like the apartment complex security gate, that sign. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's we're acting like we're safe, but really, it don't keep nobody out. Like, somebody want to bring a gun in here, will.
Follow the car in front of you and get on in.
But really, that sign really prevent people from bringing guns, not if they don't want to. Nah. You know what I'm saying? So
I think that's a good point, man. I think what that leads me to is public carry regulations do not just need to be a regulation, a law written on paper, but there needs to be physical attributes that they add to that regulation to ensure that nobody can just come into your apartment because they followed the car in front of them, or just bring a gun into your building and not have a sign. So this costs money. Don't get it twisted. I know this costs money, but having, like, if you're at a school, then they should have metal detectors or wands or something in place where, okay, if you walk through here, yeah, I got a sign that says no guns, but now you walk through with one, I know you got one. If you ain't supposed to have, we gonna search you. There's a policeman here, whatever. Same thing. I know you can't maybe stores should have metal detectors. I mean, we make stores. Here's the thing. We have laws in place that the Food and Drug Administration has all types of laws in place that people have to abide by in order to sell their food, right? Because of what? Safety, right? Do those requirements cost the businesses who make that food money? Yeah, it's an extra cost to them. But if they want to sell food, they got to do what the FDA says. So if there is a regulation around guns, is it going to cost money to have metal detectors? Yeah, but it's a safety measure. Just like the FDA has measures for food that you have to abide by to sell your food. Maybe we should have some type of regulation that makes you say, well, this is a cost that you're going to have to absorb because now we want people to be safe. So not just a sign, we're going to have some type of physical attribute there to help make sure that you're not bringing guns into public spaces.